The purpose of our study is to gain a greater understanding of the relationships between multiple disturbance regimes impacting oak savanna ecosystems within the state of California. In this study, we will focus on expanding information about oak canopy cover densities, historic fire frequency, and the presence of gall wasps. Our study addresses a few research gaps related to oak savanna ecosystems in California. Currently, there are very few publications exploring the historic fire regimes throughout the state of California. Both researchers and land managers all over the United States use historic fire data to improve their understanding about past ecological disturbances and how those disturbances influence patterns and community structure within modern forested ecosystems. Managers also use historic fire data to guide restoration goals. For example, prescribed fire is a management tool used throughout the United States to restore and maintain savannas and woodlands. The information we gather can be used to expand our knowledge between the relationship of fire frequency and ecosystem properties. The open canopies associated with oak savanna communities allow a range of sunlight to reach the understory plant species. This promotes a diverse community by giving plant species with different sunlight requirements a chance to establish within the ecosystem. There are still discrepancies as to what percentage of oak canopy cover differentiates an oak savanna and an oak woodland or forest. In this study, we will examine the oak canopy cover gradient throughout the study area. With acquired density percentages, we can try to correlate the relationship of canopy cover, fire frequency, and gall wasp infestation. We expect to find a relationship between oak densities and gall densities. 90% of oak savannas in California are privately owned. This is because a large percentage of modern oak savannas are located in areas with fertile soils conducive for livestock and agricultural production. To assess the ecological impacts associated with grazing methods, we will measure species richness and density throughout the 24-acre study area. By doing this, we will determine how grazing influences the native plant community and if grazing is potentially causing the replacement of native species with non-native invasive species. If native species are replaced, fuel patterns may be altered, ultimately affecting both potential fire frequency and intensity. Gall wasps play an important role within oak savanna communities and can potentially cause significant damage to oak trees. In oak forests, areas with high gall wasp populations may have an increased amount of weakened oak trees due to populations overcoming the oak tree's natural resistance to infestations. The relationship between insect disturbance and an oak tree's susceptibility to other disturbances are not well understood. By gathering information about fire frequency and canopy cover, we hope to find patterns between insect disturbance, canopy densities, and fire frequency. Using dendrochronological techniques, we will reconstruct the historic fire regime by identifying fire scars on oak tree cross-section and increment cores. The reconstructed fire regime gives us a better understanding into historic fire frequency and the impacts on community structure and ecological functions. This data will also be helpful for land managers deciding what types of restoration strategies are appropriate for their management area. Oak savannas throughout California are in a state of decline due to the absence of fire on the landscape, and studies have shown that oak regeneration and recruitment have declined significantly in recent years, and that fire and other mechanical methods are needed to open oak canopies to allow varying levels of sunlight to reach ground level, which will promote and recruit many resilient plant species into the ecosystem. By obtaining density data and the average weight of galls present, we can assess the degree of stress that insect populations have on oak trees and correlate that information with canopy cover densities. This information will help us determine the ideal canopy cover percentage that would limit gall density while promoting the health of oak species. This may also allow us to establish a threshold at which gall populations may overcome an oak tree's natural resistance to gall wasp infestation. Because so many oak savanna communities within California are privately owned by landowners with cattle or other livestock, grazing inevitably has a large impact on the plant community. By examining both grazed and ungrazed plots and measuring species richness and abundance within those plots, we will gain a better understanding of how grazing affects the composition of the native oak savanna understory plant communities. We will be able to share this information with private landowners and land management agencies to guide their management and grazing practices.